Okay, so I'm going to try and record you this video for the dog nose that the ladies did yesterday at our art session. And the first thing that I'm doing is I'm taking a piece of black pastel cube. And I'm going to put in these very dark bits in the nostrils first. I'm going to try and get them reasonably dark to start with. And then the same over at the other side. No matter which side you start at with this. Roughly the right shape. And then there's the line down the middle here that is quite thick and black going in, and then I'm going around on the outside so that I keep my shape something like the dog's nose. The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to do a light scumbling, but if you look at the photograph you can see that here there's a highlight that's like a bar across, and then down this side here we've got a highlight shape. So I'm still going to put some scumbling strokes in there, but they're going to be lighter than in the darker areas. So I'm going to start over here where it's all quite dark, and the scumbling motion is just backwards and forwards, figure eights, round and round. But I'm just keeping it fairly light at the minute because we're going to go backwards and forwards over it a few times. Up at the top here, it's a little bit darker. I'm keeping my eyes on where I'm darker and lighter. Across the top. And right across the top of the nostrils there's like a line. I don't know if you can see it. And that's like where the nose starts to go back. Around here is quite dark. And this black here comes down quite to the top of that little bar, and it comes right down and creates a shape like this. There's a little bit more here of the more intense, and then the other bits are just lighter. Covering in some of those white lines because I've pressed a bit hard. The ladies found that yesterday as well. They pressed a bit hard when putting the lines down. But it's good to have those lines and to see what it is that you're doing. I'm now going to look for some colour, because over this side of the nose here I can see some colours, because a nose is usually wet, it catches the light, it's shiny. It picks up colours from its surrounding areas, or even the fur around the dog. So if the dog's out in a park when the photograph's taken, you'll see some reflections of green going up. If it's a bright day, you might see reflections of blue from the sky on the top of the nose. I can see some pinky purples in the top of that nose. So I'm just going to take this pinky purple. You don't have to do this. You can just use any colours that you want to use. And I'm going to add a bit of this in over here, still using that same motion. To get a bit of pinky purple in there, I'm going to put some down here at this side, over here, and where it leads up into the black, I'm going to push a bit into that black as well. The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to take some greys now. The ladies yesterday, I swapped them over to pencils because they seemed a bit uncertain with the pastel sticks. I'm going to carry on a bit further with the pastel sticks, so it's up to you. If you want to just use your pencils now, that's fine. Where I've put this line up at the top, when I'm looking at the picture again, I can see that it narrows down, but it also comes like this a bit as well, and shaped up when I've looked again at my picture. And it's got a bit of an angle down to both the nostrils here as well, which is, it's quite common with dogs, is that. I just add a bit more black in, and what we're basically doing is working backwards and forwards and backwards and forwards with our colours. So I'm just going to take some grey now. I'm going for a sort of a bluey grey, a Payne's grey, because that's the colours that I think will be reflected back. And that's what I want in down here now. So I'm going to do the same again. Going over this area to get some of that in. Keep everything light, all your touching of the pastel, the pastel stick to the paper. Keep it light, don't press on. This where this highlight is, I'm just going to get it around the edges so that it blends out rather than just going from white to black. I'm going to just leave that one there. I'm going back to the black one again now, because down in the middle here we can see that we've got some dark, really dark, so I'll get that in. Looking at the shape of that dark, how it's coming like this. And when you're getting up to here, it's coming across and out, and you've got this shape. And then here's much lighter. So I'm still going to put some black in at the bottom, but it's lighter, so I'm going to leave those gaps again. And that's more intense there, and it's lighter there. There's that lightness there. So look at all your shapes as you're doing your drawing. Then on the far side, you've got your black going more from here, still from here, but it's going up and joining up with that nostril, your darker black. So I'm going up to make a shape up to there. I've got this shape here. And that's going to be my more intense blacks there. And then on these lighter areas, just a light bit. Still scumbling backwards and forwards. Keep your touch a bit lighter again. So we've got some colour all over the nose now, which is good. And I'm going to go back and I'm going to get some more of that Payne's grey, which I put down here. And I'm going to go across the top. That's what I can see there. I can see some of this down here, making this shape coming around here. I can see it down here at the bottom. I can see it shaping over here. I can see that there's a much lighter white bit right under that nose shape, so I'm not actually going to go into that with the grey. And over here, I'm going to get some grey in. So I think now what I'm probably going to do is, I'm probably going to swap over now and go to my pencils, like the ladies did. And I'm going to keep with the bluey grey for the minute. It's this sort of colour. And I'm going to carry on just But this is where you've got to be careful to keep your pencil clean. So as you work, keep going gently in that motion. And you will, this isn't the finished touch, you will be working backwards and forwards. But keep cleaning your pencil off. I use these microfiber dishcloths a lot when I work with pastels, because it's great. They pull all that other colour off. Because once I've done a bit of this, even though I'm turning it, if you look at the tip of the pencil, you can see it's got all the colour of what's underneath. And I don't want to just keep smudging that around, making a mess. I want to go over the top of it, but I don't want to carry it with me. So I'll keep cleaning my pencil off, and I'll just keep working around. This is that lighter, much lighter area over this side. Just keep working around, turn my pencil for a bit, and then clean it off. Keep those small scumbly movements. This gives some texture to your nose. We can go back in with some more dark in a little while, but I just want to, there's patches where we've got nothing in them at all at the minute, no colour, no nothing. I've deliberately left some white bits, but I want to get a little bit of pastel on those now. Just keep going. And I think quite a lot of what, when you first start, you don't realise is that everything goes through a really, really ugly stage. Every drawing you do gets messy. You start out and it gets really messy, and you kind of think, oh God, I made a right mess of that now. And you get a bit sort of disheartened with it. And you could stop there and start again and try and rectify where you think you went wrong. But sometimes it's better just, I mean, there are times when you've got to stop because you've just gone too far wrong. But keep working, because you'll learn how to try and correct things, and how not correcting things, you know, how ways to correct things just don't work. So I'm just putting a little bit of this in here now where I've got that white, but I'm not going too hard. I'm still keeping really soft to keep this line here. Lighter, that highlight, and that highlight sort of comes round the nostril just a little bit here as well. So I'm going there and then down here, and we will go back and darken all that other dark back up again, but we'll just keep going with this and keep cleaning that pencil off. And get a little bit of your nice colours in. Those reflections make all the difference when you're making a realistic looking portrait. Well, oh, that might just be me. I like colour in everything. I'd rather do things in colour than just in graphite. I can do graphite where, you know, it's all about your shades that give you your shapes, but I don't get the same enjoyment as I do from getting some colours in there to make things have a little bit of a pop and a little bit of interest to the eye, really. I look at lots and lots of stuff online, and I like it. I can admire the lovely quality that they've done of the realistic, photorealistic stuff, so it looks like a photograph. I think that is absolutely lovely when I look at it, but I'm always drawn more to the things that have a bit of colour, a bit of life, some warmth. That's what attracts me. But again, we're all different, and you know, you've got to do what you want to produce at the end. You'll find your own way of doing things. But I'm still just keep going round, just putting these, just lightening all that up a bit now and getting some textures. I'm going to move away from that pencil now, and I'm going to go get me darker pencils again. This is a black one. There's not much point on that, so I might have to stop in a second and sharpen it. I'll just have a little look and see if I can find my knife to sharpen with. a sharpener here. I'll give this a go. Pastels quite often don't sharpen very well with a sharpener. They can be more tricky. They snap and break more easily. So I can see here I want to get some more darks going up on the outside. Still going light, still turning my pencil. And even though I'm going with dark, I'll still be wiping it off. So I don't want to take that light colour and just smear it around on the paper. I don't want to do too much smearing. That can be harder to come back from than anything else with pastel. And that started then, don't know if you noticed, but I started holding my pencil here because I'm making smaller strokes, but it's really bad because you press down too much when you hold it too near the point. That's really good if when you're putting a specific detail in, but with pastel it should always be held, and probably coloured pencils should as well, be held further back, at least halfway back, and turned more to the side. You'll get better because you blunt it down too much. You don't get your little touches to the tips of your paper. You lose that. You can see where I've flattened it there because I've been talking and I've not done this before, recorded myself drawing or trying to tell somebody how to do it. My brain's more on that than what I'm doing, which is not a good thing. Because I do risk making a real mess of this. But we'll see. So I've moved my grip back now, and I'm much happier with how this is going on now. Still making the small little strokes, still cleaning my pencil off, but I'm much happier with the result that I'm getting. And if you can see me in that video, you'll see that I'm constantly turning the edge of that pencil, and that helps to keep more of a point to it as well, because when you go like that you just blunt them down flat and you can't, whereas when you're constantly turning them, I don't know if you can see, I'll put it over the white, might be a bit blurry, but you keep a bit of a point to it when you constantly turn it, and that's what you want an edge on it. Still keep looking back at my reference photograph and seeing where I've got lighter, where I've got darker. And this is where your texture comes in when you're doing it, not where I did it here, where I forgot what I was doing because I was talking and went down this way with my holding like this and going like this. Too much pressure, I've made a dead black bit. But here you can see, if you look closely at the nose, there's little black lines, and you can see with this method now, those little black lines are coming in. And we're gradually darkening back up again, and I'll go back in with some more lights probably in there, and then maybe back to some more darks. And it is a case of just going steady away, going backwards and forwards, working backwards and forwards over areas until you've got really what it is that you think it looks like a nose. The other thing to do as well is not sit too close to it all the time. So kind of try and take a step back from it regularly, because you lose your perspective when you sat on top of it. We quite missed you yesterday, so we did have a bit of a laugh. We had a new lady that joined us and we all had a bit of a laugh. I think when there's a few of us, it does bring us a bit more of an atmosphere. I mean, you can obviously do all this at home on your own all of the time, you know, if that's what you prefer to do, but I just think being together, it's a social thing as well, you know, we get a social event out of it, as well as you know, a few tips and tricks and a bit of support on your art journey. I hope you got your tyre fixed, by the way. So now we're starting to get some nice doggy shapes in there. I'm going to come down this side now and it sort of comes into the nostril. When you're making your shapes, you're sort of coming into that nostril and going back out and in and back out. I keep darkening it up a bit more around the outside of the nostril, the nose. It is actually a bit darker out there, and I could still see my lines where I'd pressed on when I wasn't thinking again about what I was doing. When we look at a dog's nose, we just think, oh, it's a black nose with some white dots on. But actually that's not quite true. I've done a bit more smudging and moving around in there because I'm going to go back in with some lights. But I want some of that, a darker shade. I don't want to keep it as light as this or as light as that, because down at this side you have got some dark, you've still got some light, but I'm going to go back in with some light. But I've just smudged some of that around there to make a more smudgy type of appearance. Back over this side, this black comes down. I love this colour against the black. This is me with my colours. I don't want to colour that in and make it a black nose. I want to leave it so I can see it. But if you take a step back from your work at this point, you can see, you'll be able to see that you're getting some of those black texturey lines in, and still stay light, moving your pen around, your pencil around. Going back to here now to get a bit more here. And quite often on the as the skin comes out from where the nostril is, you'll see that there's like the little cracks and crevices, a little bit darker. And quite often you'll see some light going into the nostrils, which gives them even more shape. We might go back and put some of that in a little while. Out from here. Sometimes I might go back as well with some pastel stick afterwards if I feel that I'm not getting the density of colour I want from a pencil. But pastel mat's really good for working with this and keeping grabbing onto that pencil and keeping it coming in. Just going to swap back to that grey again, because I just want to put a little bit down here and across there. And this is what I mean, you can keep just going backwards and forwards and backwards and forwards until you've got it looking like what you want it to look like. Keep remembering to wipe your pencil off, because all you'll be making is you'll stop making the black marks, which is what you're trying to make. You'll just start smudging it all into one colour. Twist your pencil, keep twisting, working on the side. I've done it again, look, did you notice? Because I was talking, I've moved my grip up on my pencil. And I won't get the strokes that I want and the look that I want if I keep moving my grip to the top like I'm holding a pen. It's not the look that I want because I'm not looking for a definite specific detail. I'm looking to create texture and more texture here. We'll need some lights back in there because it is quite wet looking there. So we'll need to put some lights back in there. And we'll do that with a lighter pencil. I think you'll find it easier to use your pencils than make marks quite small. This nose is really big. And when you draw a dog, when you do get round to doing the full dog, unless you're going to work really big, you're going to have to get all this detail into a much smaller space. But I just think it's easier to start big because it gives you the chance to understand what you're trying to achieve. Whereas if you start off trying to do it small, it's so difficult to get these details into a small space that you might get a bit disheartened and think that you can't actually do it. But it's just easier to work in a bigger space. So I'm trying to bring these shapes now, get these blacks in down here. And if you look at your reference photo, you'll see that it has got these lines coming up and down. And so I'm just trying to start off by putting some in, but still keep turning my pencil and not make them definite. Because against that black nostril there, that still looks very light. Against that black nostril, that still looks very light. And against this black nostril, that still looks very light. So how much black I've put down yet hasn't really darkened this down too much, because it's all about the contrast between the darks, a bit of colour for interest, and where your highlights actually hit on whatever it is that you're drawing. You start to realise the more you look at things that the only way that we define what shape is the way that the light hits it. And when the light changes or we move position, it looks different. It looks a different shape. And that's why when it's dark, we can't see things as easily in the dark, because we look for where the light hits to see what it is that we're looking at. And then our brain kind of makes the rest up once it's had the experience of it, which is what we get obviously when we're little. Just keep working and working and working, backwards and forwards and backwards and forwards. Don't forget to keep turning your pencil, keep cleaning your pencil. Keep moving your hand back, Lindsay, because you're talking and gripping it like a pencil, a pen, and you're gripping too hard and you're making flat black areas, which is not what you want. It's quite hard to draw and talk. Never done it before. Talk to people while I'm drawing, but not try to talk about what I'm drawing, what I'm doing, not try to describe it as I do it. I find it's easier when you ladies come to, because I'm not drawing, to be able to sit back and suggest what you need to do next, but to think about what I need to do next and to be telling you what you're doing here as well. It's a new challenge for me. I hope you can get this video soon, and it's good because you can stop and start with a video. You know, you can do a bit and you can stop and you can start again if you want to. You can pause it, rewind it, try again. If you're not certain of what I'm doing, or I'm making a fluff of it and you want to take a minute to use your brain, you can stop and use the pause and rewind bit, which I think is actually quite useful, really. So I'm still looking for these shapes. Where do I need to get more black in? I will be going back in with some more light, but the trouble is, if you keep just going light and black, light and dark, light and dark, light and dark, you'll get a lot of mud. I call it mud. It's just like, it's either a browny colour or a grey colour, depending on what colours you've got there. And you lose that texture. You've got to start again then, trying to build it up. You can pick some of the pastel off by using a Q-tip or a makeup brush, or a makeup applicator, a sponge makeup applicator. If you've got too much pastel down and you want to pick some up, because you can't see how to then get the colours and the shapes that you're looking for, you can pick some of it off, lighten your areas back up by using a Q-tip. Now, I don't know if you can see what you can see, because I can't actually see what I'm recording, really. This area on the photograph, it's very light and very bright, but there is some very definite blacks in. I've still got some shapes in there now, and when I come back in with the lights over the top, that'll bring back the light reflections. But I need it to get some darks in, but also leave some little dots of light around. So we've more or less got that done there. And here, we're getting that in and out shape more. Take my fingers back, lighten my stroke. I don't know why, because I'm doing this just because I'm talking. It's because my mind's on what, trying to describe it for you, instead of just going ahead and doing what I'm doing, because very, very rarely do I hold my pencil so tight. Very rarely, as I'm finding that I'm doing here. Might need to go back in with some more of the black stick later. I've moved some of it as I've gone in and around. We'll see when we get to the end. We'll see whether I need to do that. I'm working from a screen again, and it's quite a bright day, and the reflections on the screen are making it a little bit difficult, because I don't just want to go ahead and draw any nose, because you will be working from a photo reference. So I'm trying to keep it similar to what you'll be trying to achieve. Like these bits of bluiness showing through here. I'm just going to grab a blue pencil and add some bits of blue in, because I like that bluey bit. And if you can see, as I'm just going over with the blue now, you can see that the black's still staying there, keeping my pencil clean. I'm turning it around all the time as well. Bit of this. Fully clean. That looks a bit more pinky up at the top to my eyes, but I think it's this think it's this printout that I'm working from. I'm working from both a screen and a printout, trying to look at what you will be working from. But I'm going to put the blue down. I'm going to take a more really pale, light pinky colour. And I'm going to put some of that up here. Might have to go back with some more black afterwards, it will depend. But I'm keeping it light, light little strokes. Just sort of where the light's touching the tops on the tops of the ridges and the little grooves, and going back to my black again. And I'm coming down through this light now. It's quite difficult doing it and talking. I didn't realise that it'd be like this. But it's harder for me to keep my concentration on what I'm doing. It's good for me to have a new learning experience as well. But you can hear that dog in the background. I think dogs are a bit like that when they first start to come back out as the weather gets nicer. They're a bit more barky. Then when you get towards the end of the summer, they seem to have settled back down again and realise that there's not that much to be worried about. Had to shift my hand back again, so I'm thinking about what to be telling you to do. And just as one dog stops, another dog starts. You often think they're having a conversation with each other, don't you, when they're doing that? It's all gone quiet again for a minute. I was doing a bit of acrylic pouring this morning, and I was using the hairdryer. I've not used a hairdryer on it before because I've not done much of it. And I was using the hairdryer, and the dog next door really didn't like it when I kept turning the hairdryer on and off. It was really telling me off because I think they can hear it more because I'm in the conservatory. Right, it really is starting to take some shape and look like a nose now. I'm definitely going to go back in with some darker black. In fact, I think I'm going to do that now. I'm going to come across here. Still really gentle. And I'm still turning my pastel, because I will be picking up some of those lighter colours underneath. Wipe my pastel off, make sure I haven't got too much. Up here's definitely darker than I've got it. I don't want to make it just flat black though, even though it might appear to look like that when you're looking at any reference photograph you're working from. If you try and do flat black, it'll just look deadened. Always keeping light touches. Apart from here where I'm going to press on. So I want to get plenty of black in that area. And my temptation is always to blow, and it's so not good. So instead I'm going to be a good girl. I'm going to take it to the side and I'm just going to tap it off underneath onto my fibre cloth, because that'll grab it and hold it and stop the pastel blowing around everywhere. And I know when you ladies come along, I bet you think 2 hours to draw a nose. But it's the going backwards and forwards that takes your time, because you're creating shapes. You know, anybody can sit down and draw that outline and put these black bits in and that, put some white across. But when you're trying to create these shapes to actually give it a more 3D effect, it takes time. You've got to build areas up, leave areas without any building in them, put a little hint here and a little hint there. It really does take a little bit of time, concentration, effort. But I think the results are really worth the extra time taken. And it can be really therapeutic just sat doing this. And I think you know, if you're doing it at home, so I think you'll find it maybe even more therapeutic, because, you know, if you do this, say just for example, you do this with me, and then you think, right, now I'm going to have a go at another nose on my own without following somebody. You kind of get lost in what you're doing. Your brain can't think about anything else other than this one thing. And our brains are so busy in this day and age that we don't really stop to think and to sit and to not be always doing something, talking to somebody, watching something on the TV, reading something, doing something, life admin, whatever it is. We're always doing something. You very rarely see anybody, I think, these days just sat doing nothing. And I remember when I was a kid, it was like an anathema to adults to see kids just sat doing nothing, because there was always too much for the adult to do. But I think they should be encouraged really to take time to do nothing. I don't know if my voice is fading in and out a bit here really, because I'm moving backwards and forwards now. I'm moving away from it and back to it. And I know this isn't going to be perfect 'cause it's the first time I've done talking whilst working, so it's been more difficult for me, but I suppose that puts us on a bit of a level playing field. I'm going for another grey now. It's a silver grey, is this, to just get some more light in those light areas. And it's light, just trying to catch the tops of those little bobbles in the skin. Such light touches. Just trying to keep that shape. Keep cleaning that pencil off. Don't want to be moving that black just from place to place and making it grey everywhere. There's actually quite a reflection from the light here on this side. And there's a little bit here inside the nostril as well. I should pat that down a little bit because I don't want it quite so bright there. I try not to touch it with my fingers too much because you just put oils onto you. And the soft pastels, they won't go over the top of the oils. Your wax pencils and things, they don't go over the top if you get the oils from your hands and other things on there. They don't go over. So I'm just keep trying to catch like the tops of those little blobbles that you can see in the skin on the nose. Just trying to create little blobbly marks. I do hold a bit further down for this because I'm actually pressing a bit harder but with really small strokes to try and stop me from having to keep patting it in. Quite a bit of light going on down here as well. Just keep cleaning that pencil. Going to grab another bit of pink, mainly because I like to put colours in things. Nobody else, you don't need to be doing this, so you can just carry on with your greys and whites and other colours. I just like to have a bit of variation of reflected colours. From around. I've got that area too, that area there, I've got it too light. I like it. If I wasn't trying to follow a photograph showing you what to do, I would leave that because I liked it, but I'll put it a bit down to a bit more how it is in the actual reference photograph. I'm back to using a bit of pastel stick again. For my darkest darks and my lightest lights, I really prefer the sticks to pencils. I just find that they do a better job. I just find that. A lot of people find sticks hard to use to start with, and I think I started with pencils, wanting to do it all with pencils, because I was very familiar with pencils because most of my work I'd done before this was in coloured pencils, so I was very familiar with the pencils, but I couldn't do the same with them as I can do with the sticks, and that's all, I think, again down to differences in the way people like to work. And I'm really sorry if I've been keeping my hand over that. It looks like I probably have. Very sorry about that. Try and keep that out of the way now. So I think that'll do for giving you your few starter points and what to look for when you're doing your nose. It's been quite a learning curve for me. I might do. Shall I stop there? I'm going to stop there with the nose. And what I'm going to do is, the ladies struggled yesterday with the fur around the nose. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop this, and then I'm going to start again with another one. I'm going to put some of that fur in around the nose, and then maybe the other ladies can have a look at it and see if it's something that would be any use to them. So I'll stop there, Sue. I hope it's been some useful tips and hints for you, and I've said I'll stop there, and then I've looked at it and thought, no, well, I won't just want to. This is what happens when you think you've finished. You always just want to go back and do some more when you've stopped. A lot of people recommend that you leave it and go back to it. Don't call it done at a point. But I am going to stop there because I could just carry on probably with this for hours and hours and hours. So I'm going to leave that, and then I'm just going to stop this video, and then I'll start again and put some fur around it.